Some big breaking news to bring you. Real Madrid have sacked Xabi Alonso.
Real Madrid have parted ways with Xabi Alonso. For a club that rarely blinks, that decision alone tells you everything.
We all felt that Alonso was going to come in and it was going to be fresh, and it was going to be different, and it was going to be vibrant and dynamic, and it was the opposite.
This wasn't a collapse. It was something quieter and somehow worse. A season that began with control slowly turned fragile.
As the season opens, it starts great. 7 straight wins for Real Madrid and everybody's happy. 2 wins in 8 games, November 4th through December 10th. This is when the problems really started to show.
A derby where 5 goals were conceded. A league lead erased by Barcelona, who went on a 10-game winning streak built on resilience, not brilliance. European nights where Madrid didn't lose on talent, but on structure. Even with 18 goals from Kylian Mbappé.
Tries to catch the defender's eyes, opens up for Mbappé. Sensational!
Even with flashes from Vinícius Jr., Rodrigo, and Jude Bellingham, the same issue kept surfacing. Pressing without coordination, possession without protection, transitions without control. By January, the numbers were unforgiving. More shots conceded, passive pressing metrics, leads that didn't last. And after one final Clásico defeat that cost them a trophy, the season's direction was judged unsalvageable. But what followed wasn't panic, it was intent.
Then now it is Álvaro Arbeloa who's taking over.
Instead of chasing another big name, Real Madrid turned inward to a coach who had already built winning systems inside Valdebebes, to Álvaro Arbeloa, to a 4-3-3 rooted in intensity, rest defense, and repeatable dominance. This is the story of how Madrid unraveled, why Barcelona outlasted them, and how Arbeloa's blueprint could make Real Madrid dangerous again. When the 2025-26 season began, Real Madrid weren't in transition. They were supposed to be consolidating power, but this season was never played in isolation. While Madrid were trying to impose a new identity under Xabi Alonso, their biggest rival was quietly building momentum under far harsher conditions. Madrid's opening weeks were defined by control without bite, around 60% possession on average, increasing shots conceded, declining high recoveries. But at the same time, Barcelona weren't flying, they were surviving. Recurrent injuries across midfield and defense, inconsistent availability of key starters, heavy physical load on a thin core group. Yet even while rotating and improvising, Barcelona kept winning, not dominating, winning. This contrast matters. Madrid looked cleaner, Barcelona looked tougher. The season's emotional axis shifted on 27th of September 2025. Atletico Madrid 5-2 Real Madrid. This was the first systemic exposure of Alonso's structure, and the knock-on effect was league-wide. Because while Madrid were absorbing that shock, Barcelona began a run that quietly flipped the title narrative. From late September onward, Barcelona stopped dropping points. What began as damage control turned into momentum. 26 October 2025. Real Madrid 2-1 Barcelona. This match remains the statistical and emotional peak of Alonso's reign. Madrid went 5 points clear. The table suggested authority. The narrative briefly favored Madrid's project, but here's the critical layer that often gets missed. Barcelona lost that Clásico while still managing injuries, and it didn't derail them. It sharpened them. From that point forward, Barcelona entered a sustained winning sequence. 10 consecutive league victories stretching from late October into the new year, the longest active run in La Liga during that period. Madrid were first. Barcelona were relentless, and this is where pressure began to compound. Madrid's European wobble against Liverpool came at the worst possible time, because while Madrid were losing control on continental nights, Barcelona were grinding out narrow wins, closing gaps late in matches, showing tactical flexibility despite limited personnel. By November, Barcelona had erased Madrid's cushion. The league lead was no longer secure. Every Madrid slip now had immediate consequences. This is when Madrid's margin for experimentation disappeared. December didn't just expose Madrid's structure, it exposed the psychological difference between the two rivals. While Madrid lost composure against Celta Vigo, collapsed emotionally at home, and failed to protect a lead versus Manchester City, Barcelona were doing the opposite. They were winning without spectacle, protecting narrow advantages, managing game states, turning tight matches into routine victories. By mid-December, Barcelona were top of the league, not because they were flawless, but because they were stable. Madrid, meanwhile, were volatile. Madrid's 5-1 win over Betis briefly suggested recovery, but even even that result carried context. Barcelona were still winning. The gap remained significant. Madrid no longer controlled their destiny. Barcelona's streak meant that Madrid could not afford a single misstep, and yet missteps kept coming. By the time the Super Cup final arrived, the league story had already been written. Barcelona entered with momentum, with belief, and team hardened by adversity. Madrid entered needing a statement. They didn't get it. Super Cup final, Barcelona 3-2 Real Madrid. It wasn't just a defeat, it was Barcelona completing a comeback season arc. Injury hit early months, tactical survival, 10 straight league wins, psychological ascendancy. For Madrid, the loss confirmed something the league table had already implied. They weren't being unlucky, they were being outlasted. This context matters because Real Madrid weren't falling alone. They were falling while Barcelona were rising through resilience. Madrid's problem wasn't only internal, it was structural fragility, emotional volatility, and the inability to sustain pressure when rivals demanded perfection. And at this level, that difference decides seasons and sackings. Arbeloa was not promoted to calm the season. He was promoted to redefine how Madrid play football, because the previous months exposed a truth the club could no longer ignore. Madrid were losing games not because of talent gaps, but because they had lost structural authority, and Arbeloa's entire coaching profile is built around restoring exactly that. By January, the internal diagnosis at Madrid was brutally clear: possession without control, pressing without coordination, transitions without protection, talent without a map. The squad was elite, the execution was not repeatable. Madrid didn't need a coach who promised innovation, they needed one who could standardize behavior across the pitch. Arbeloa's work inside Valdebebas made him uniquely positioned for that task. This appointment only makes sense if you understand what Arbeloa has already done. As head coach of Juvenil A, he delivered a domestic treble in 2022-23, another league title in 2024-25. Consistent dominance in possession and territory, clear behavioral standards on and off the ball. Those trophies matter, but the how matters more. Arbeloa's teams were not reactive. They didn't wait for opponents to make mistakes. They forced them. High defensive lines, aggressive counterpressing, wide occupation with disciplined spacing. That is not coincidence. That is a system. At the core of Arbeloa's model is a 4-3-3, but not the static version Madrid drifted into under Alonso. This is a functional 4-3-3. One pivot anchors rest defense. Two interiors control tempo and second balls. Wingers are not touchline passengers, they are pressing triggers. Fullbacks provide width when the structure allows it. The formation exists to support behaviors, not dictate positions. That distinction matters because Madrid's biggest issue last season was not shape, it was spacing discipline once the ball was lost. Arbeloa's possession game is not about aesthetics. His teams dominate the ball to decide where the game is played. In the academy, circulation was used to stretch blocks horizontally. Vertical passes were triggered once rest defense was set. Tempo changes were deliberate, not impulsive. This directly addresses Madrid's 2025-26 flaw. Long spells of sterile control followed by one bad turnover and instant danger. Under Arbeloa, possession is a defensive tool as much as an attacking one. The most immediate visual change under Arbeloa will be the press. Not louder, smarter. His teams press high, but they do it with clear first-line triggers. Midfield lines ready to jump, not hesitate. Back lines positioned to compress space, not retreat. This matters because Madrid's pressing numbers last season told a clear story. PPDA climbed into passive territory. Opposition progression through midfield became routine. Second balls were lost too often. Arbeloa's philosophy is simple. If you lose the ball, you win it back immediately. Or you retreat together. No half pressing. No isolated runs. One of Alonso's biggest issues was how high Madrid's fullbacks pushed without consistent cover. Arbeloa uses fullbacks aggressively, but conditionally. In his system, fullbacks advance only when interior positioning secures rest defense. Wingers tuck inside to create interior overloads. The far side fullback often stays deeper to balance the structure. This is crucial for a Madrid side that conceded too many high-value chances in transition. Arbeloa doesn't remove ambition, he organizes it. Despite the possession focus, Arbeloa is not a sterile positional coach. He has repeatedly referenced his admiration for vertical intent, a trait shaped during his years under Jose Mourinho. The result is a hybrid philosophy: control the game through structure, kill the opponent through decisive vertical actions. This is important for Madrid because the squad is built for acceleration. Wide players who attack space, midfielders who break lines. Forwards who thrive on early delivery, Arbeloa's system is designed to unlock that explosiveness, not suppress it. Perhaps the most overlooked part of Arbeloa's profile is his emphasis on mentality, not as a speech, but as a system. He demands discipline in pressing, responsibility without the ball, leadership through action. This directly addresses the authority erosion that defined the end of Alonso's tenure. In Arbeloa's teams, no one is above the structure, but the structure exists to make stars decisive, not obedient. This is not propaganda. There is a real challenge ahead. High-intensity, possession-dominant football at youth level does not automatically translate to Champions League nights. The margins are thinner. The punishments are harsher. Arbeloa will need a clearer plan B for low-block games, better game state management when leading, protection against elite counterattacks. But here is why Madrid still believe those are evolution problems. What Alonso faced were identity problems. Madrid did not appoint Arbeloa because he is familiar. They appointed him because his football answers the exact questions the season asked. How do you press without breaking? How do you dominate without drifting? How do you give stars freedom without losing control? That is the promise of the Arbeloa setup. Álvaro Arbeloa is not walking into Real Madrid with a blank slate. He is walking into a squad that has already shown it can score, already shown it can win big matches, yet repeatedly failed to control the terms of the game. The philosophy is clear. Now we get specific. The on-pitch blueprint, the pressing triggers, the midfield rotations, and most importantly, how Arbeloa can make Madrid's best players devastating without leaving the team structurally exposed. To do that, the first thing he needs is clarity of profiles. This is the spine that matters most. The players who either produce consistently or define Madrid's tactical ceiling. Kylian Mbappé, 18 goals, 4 assists. Vinícius Jr., 5 goals, 5 assists. Jude Bellingham, 4 goals, 3 assists. Federico Valverde, 6 assists, right side engine and balance. Arda Güler, 3 goals, 6 assists. Rodrigo, 1 goal, 3 assists, connector profile. When fit, Trent Alexander-Arnold adds an extra layer of control, but he is not the system. In itself, Arbeloa also benefits from academy-ready depth, Gonzalo Garcia with 3 goals so far, and Castilla creators like Cesar Palacios and Jorge Testero. This matters because Arbeloa's system thrives when intensity can rotate without losing behavior. Arbeloa's default is a 4-3-3. In reality, his teams live inside 3 shapes depending on the phase. In build-up, 2 center backs split, 1 fullback steps into midfield when conditions allow. Aurelian Tchouaméni anchors centrally. The far side fullback holds position instead of racing forward. When Trent is unavailable, that stabilizing role is often fulfilled by Álvaro Carreras, whose restraint on the left protects rest defense and spacing. In the attacking shape, wingers hold width until the moment of entry. One interior attacks between lines, Bellingham's natural zone. The other interior balances and protects. That's Valverde. In defensive transition, this is the critical correction to Alonso's Madrid. The moment possession is lost, 3 players are already behind the ball. 2 screen central lanes, no scrambling retreat. Arbeloa's football is aggressive, but never unprepared. Madrid were punished all season when build-up became a coin flip. Arbeloa's solution is sequencing risk, not removing it. Tchouaméni remains the fixed reference. Eduardo Camavinga becomes the pressure release valve. Carreras holds width and security on the left. When fit, Trent provides an additional control layer, not a dependency. He steps inside to form a midfield triangle only when balance is secured. Valverde automatically shades right to protect space. The structure remains intact if Trent is absent. This ensures Vinícius and Mbappé receive the ball while opponents are still rotating, not once defensive blocks are set. A high-pressing 4-3-3 survives on rolls, not energy. Bellingham as the left interior, hybrid 10, attacks the half space when Vinícius holds width, becomes the late runner when Vinícius drives inside, leads the second wave of pressing. Valverde as the right side protector, covers for right side movement, first recovery runner in transitions, pins the half space to prevent structural splits. Güler as the creative lever, starter against low blocks, rhythm changer off the bench in big games. Arbeloa can choose risk profiles, not just lineups. Mbappe's role is 2 mode, in possession, pin center backs, attacks blindside channels, out of possession, curved pressing runs, forcing play wide, no box-to-box demands, no wasted energy. Vinícius is not restricted, he is supported. Carreras' positional discipline and Bellingham's proximity proximity ensure 1v1 freedom, immediate counter-press support, no isolation after turnovers. The right wing, Rodrigo for connection and control, Gonzalo Garcia for intensity and late-game pressing. Arbeloa rotates function, not reputation. The press does not begin with Mbappé sprinting, it begins with collective positioning. Back pass to center back, poor first touch near the touchline. Pass into pivot with back to goal. Everyone presses together, or not at all. That alone fixes half of Madrid's 2025-26 problems. Madrid's biggest failure this season was the delay between losing the ball and regaining shape. Arbeloa's counter-press is built on nearest three swarm, two screeners block central lanes, backline holds position. This works with or without Trent. When Trent is fit, it improves progression, not defensive responsibility. Arbeloa must avoid the Castilla criticism, lack of alternatives. Against certain opponents, 4-2-3-1. Tchouaméni plus Camavinga double pivot. Bellingham as a true 10, narrow wingers, closer to Mbappé. Against deep blocks, Güler as the lock picker. His final ball quality changes the game. This is not about aesthetics. It restores territorial control, defensive authority, repeatable dominance. And crucially, the system works now. It scales when Trent is fit. It does not collapse around one absence. That is how Real Madrid stop being explosive on good days and start being dangerous every day. This is where the Arbeloa project either convinces everyone or collapses under reality. Because systems don't fail in theory, they fail under pressure. Against low blocks, Arbeloa's Madrid must avoid sterile possession. The solution is controlled patience, not extra attackers. Carreras holds balance on the left. Bellingham occupies the half space, and Arda Güler becomes the decisive variable. Final passes, tempo changes, shots from zone 14, no forcing, no chaos. Against elite presses, the answer is structure, not bravery. Tchouaméni anchors, Camavinga becomes the outlet. Valverde protects transitions. When fit, Trent adds progression, but the exit routes must already exist without him. Play through pressure, not around it. Against transition-heavy teams, everything hinges on rest defense. 3 behind the ball, 2 screening, immediate counter press. This is where Arbeloa's biggest correction from the Alonso era shows. Madrid stops sprinting backwards because they are already positioned correctly. If these 3 tests hold, the system survives Europe. If they don't, no name on the touchline saves it. Álvaro Arbeloa isn't here to reinvent Real Madrid. He's here to restore their authority, not by slowing the game down, but by controlling it. This isn't about stars doing more. It's about structure allowing stars to decide games without breaking the team. Madrid don't need miracles anymore. They need repeatability. And if Arbeloa gets that right, Real Madrid won't just be dangerous again. They'll be inevitable.